Can Joe Biden make America great again? Is the world now a better place? 0344 499 1000. And hear me out on this, because this is certainly not an exercise in blowing smoke in the direction of the new president northwards. Joe Biden set to sign 10 executive orders to boost the fight against COVID. America, of course, really struggling in that respect, although the numbers, as per capita, are not as bad as they are in some other countries, including our own. Vaccinations accelerated. On top of that, he's, of course, set to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and many other aspects that Mr. Trump had advanced, he will tear up and re-sign. Here's the question, though. Is the world now a better place? 0344 499 1000. This isn't about, I think my views on Sleepy Joe are pretty well known, even though we live in this curious, and boy, how many rows have I got into in the last, even in the last few weeks over this. The minute you say, I'm not such a fan of Trump, there is a curious, frankly, anti-intellectual assumption that you therefore must be a huge supporter of Joe Biden. This, of course, is grade A nonsense. Doesn't make any sense. You can, breaking news, you can dislike both. It's actually possible, did you know that? To actually not be enamored by either of the two men that were standing to be the next American president. Yeah, completely possible. Completely legal as well. You're allowed to have that position. I don't like Trump. I'm not so struck on your man Biden either. Nonetheless, the minute you attack Trump, the assumption is you must therefore be a card-carrying member of his opposition. I know it's lunacy, and I shouldn't have to explain that. It's kind of 0.1% of half-wits that kind of run with that one, but run with it they do, and wear it like a badge almost. It's the first line of attack. 0344 499 1000. So it's not really about Joe. You look at Joe Biden, the cut of Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden is a very experienced, seasoned politician. He's been around the hill for 50 years. This man, few American politicians would be seen as experienced if we base experience based on the amount of time you've been doing the job. He's been vice president, of course, already, so it's not like this is all shiny and new to dear old Joe. Having a mooch around the Oval Office, it would have felt like, well, this is where I worked for a good decade almost. So he's familiar with the nuts and bolts of the gig. So that side of things isn't likely to faze him, and I don't dispute the fact that he knows his way around the world of American politics. It's in his blood like few others. I get all of that. I just don't happen to think he's particularly good. And when I say good, I think the role of the American president does require more than one thing. Obama had that great gift of being a superb orator. You might have hated the ground he walked on politically, but in terms of imparting a message, Obama could do that stuff. Clinton could do that stuff incredibly well. Interesting, George W. Bush, when he was governor of Texas, was great at that kind of thing, and it sort of fell apart a tad when he became the president. Ronald Reagan was an absolute master at imparting the message. In fact, as we sit here today, and I'd include Obama in this, I don't think we've seen an American president that was able to kind of do it quite as well as Ronnie did. He had the presence, he had the looks, he had the mere way of being able to sell a policy or an idea. He was just very, very good. And then we have Joe Biden. And on the scale of wow, bang, panache, woo, whiz, fireworks, dear old Joe, he's a wet sparkler, isn't he? Remember when you were a kid and your sparkler wouldn't light? That was the Joe Biden sparkler you were holding right there. It wouldn't go to zzz, and it just went out. That's Sleepy Joe. In fact, at one point, I actually thought during his inauguration speech, I thought rigor mortis had set in at one point. There was a stumble and a mumble. There was no verb. There was no enthusiasm. This was not, anything fantastic. And I think I realised that this wasn't a good speech when I discovered, as I was watching it, that I began to eat my own face. And I was at that point full of the realisation that I wasn't seeing a great leader here. So there's that. What I was seeing, however, was a change, and a change from an America that it doesn't matter whether you like Trump. You'd have to acknowledge the place divided up like never before. We'd never quite seen divisions. Now, that might have coincided with lots of other things, because we've seen those divisions in other parts around the world as well. So it's not exclusively a Trump point, but certainly America looked like a place that had gone wrong, right? I think everything about, you didn't look at the president and see a kind of unifying president. And that's key to what I want to talk about here. And when I ask, is the world a better place? I'm not asking that because I think it's a better place because of Joe Biden. I'm wondering whether it's a better place because of change. And I know football analogies are usually fairly unhelpful when it comes to politics. But if you consider when a team that's had a run of bad luck changes their manager, I mean, the manager is still essentially has the same key players under his wing. And he will know what formation those players perform best in. As a Chelsea fan, I can remember the heady years of almost having a manager a week. But there was a point when you change the manager, something just happens. There's a new lease of life, there's a new veneer, there's a new sense of energy, because, the old has gone and in with the new. So it doesn't, regardless of whether it was Joe Biden or Joe Bloggs, the fact that something new has happened in the United States, is this likely to make the world a better place? Because you consider, what happens in the States. America sneezes and the rest of the world often catch a cold. And the sort of Trump contagion, which was divisive, his whole existence, his whole political existence was completely designed to be divisive. That was the point of it. That's how he gained his power base. And there will be some people who were waverers, people who were just Democrats and thought, well, who were just Republicans, I can't vote for the Democrats, so I'll vote for Donald anyway, through gritted teeth, with their eyes closed. There were many Republicans that did that. And of course, there were naturalized Trump supporters, intelligent people who genuinely thought this guy was good. And by the way, let's just remind everybody, and I think Joe Biden, in fairness, did acknowledge this to a degree, the 70 million people voted for Donald Trump. Now, you'd have to be some kind of supercharged loon to forget about 70 million people. 70 million people. So this was a kind of half and half thing. And any American president worth their salt should be representing those people. Fatal error of Donald Trump was that he didn't represent the others. He represented his own base, and he did it in his own way. And in fairness, it isn't about stupidity of voters. The first time around, people voted for Trump purely because he was the very antithesis of the establishment politician, because he wasn't a Joe Biden, he wasn't a Barack Obama. He hadn't spent years in the Senate. He hadn't been around Capitol Hill cozying up to congressmen left, right and centre for the past few decades. It was because he was none of those things that he found himself in office. But in doing so, he had to somehow find a way of marking out a very divisive territory. And that's what he did. Donald Trump was just not a very nice bloke. The list of lies of Donald Trump, I don't even know where to begin about Donald Trump, whether it's, forgetting that he paid Stormy Daniels tens of thousands of pounds because of whatever happened there, whether it was his incredibly slow and dangerous lack of acknowledgement of coronavirus. It could have been a bit of that as well. I'm sure that's on the list. And then up to, of course, more recent times, the continuing denial of an election result, which interestingly he didn't mention in that final speech. He didn't even say, don't worry, the big court case is happening, I'm financing it. There was none of that either. This was not a good bloke. You wouldn't want your daughter coming home with somebody like Donald Trump. But then again, he's the president, okay? You're not necessarily meant to like him as long as you think he's doing the right thing. I don't think Donald Trump did the right thing. I don't think he was a nice man. I think he left not just a veneer, but a well-ingrained malaise on the condition of the United States. Just not a particularly nice bloke. And I think that lack of niceness teetered on the dangerous in many occasions. We saw what he said, Proud Boys stand down or stand back, whatever it was. The Capitol Hill riots. And don't get me wrong, it's not a competition about whose riots were worse, the ones last summer or the ones on Capitol Hill. It's the fact that a sitting American president, whichever way you want to slice it, did, to a degree, encourage that. So the world today is a better place. It absolutely is a better place because we don't have that and we have change. Now, Biden may well turn out to be a fairly lackluster American president. There is nothing great about Joe Biden. There's nothing brilliant. You know, the X factor thing that you could say definitely Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, those kind of people had that thing. Trump, in a curious way, sort of had a thing. He had a thing. His thing was the fact that he wasn't any of the above. Joe Biden doesn't have any of that, but he does represent something new. It's a new era, a new dawn, to coin all of those phrases. So putting the Lady Gagas aside, putting aside the horror story of the inaugural speech and all the rest of it, what America now has is change. It has a new direction, and that surely is a good thing. That's a good thing, right? Hate Joe Biden as much as you like, but surely that country needed a change. You haven't got a warmonger, you haven't got a horror show, you haven't got a dodgepot. I know people will make their own arguments. They want to find photoshopped images of Joe Biden's son or whatever. They will put all that together. But for the rest of us in the world of adulthood, Joe Biden will be at best a kind of okay, fairly non-controversial president. At best. That'll be it. He's not going to go down in history as the best man that ever sat in the Oval Office. Not by a country mile. But it's change. It's just change. Will America be better? Will America be great again? The question that Trump kept putting out there for 4 long years. Is Biden now going to be the man in situ when that greatness returns to the mighty United States? 0344 499 1000.